Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a fascinating concept, self-reflection. We're looking at a piece of writing that essentially holds up a mirror to our modern lives, zeroing in on a vital skill we're rapidly losing. The author hits us with a harsh truth right out of the gate. Modern technology has basically swallowed our quiet moments whole. We've completely traded deep contemplation for constant, endless digital distraction.
To set the scene, the source paints a really striking picture. Imagine an older man, someone with, as the text puts it, one foot in the grave. But what's he doing? He's tapping away at a completely nonsensical game on his cell phone. It forces you to ask, why isn't he deep in thought? Why isn't he contemplating his life, his legacy, or mortality itself? The essay argues that this kind of profound thinking is practically going extinct. Instead of wrestling with the big stuff, our society just heavily relies on constant escapism.
And this really highlights a massive shift in how our brains operate. Think about the past. Those little gaps in your day were reflective time. They were these brief moments where a totally new idea could just sort of unlatch your mental door and creep in. But now, welcome to the internet age. That quiet space is gone. It's been entirely hijacked by the scrolling, the trolling, and the flickering images we keep permanently glued to our faces.
Section 1. History's warning signs, the consequences of thoughtlessness. And this is where the stakes get high, because the author points out that periods of societal thoughtlessness almost always precede massive disasters, kind of like the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, or the sheer destructive wickedness that paved the way for World War II. If we track this historically, right after the absolute carnage of that war, humanity genuinely tried to change. Back in 1944 at the Bretton Woods Conference, leaders were desperate for a profound rebirth to banish that kind of violence forever. And for a while, it really looked like we were learning to think critically. By 1989, the Berlin Wall comes down, and then in 1991, the Soviet Union dissolves. It really felt like lasting harmony and reconciliation were taking root.
So what happened to all that late 20th century hope? Well, the source drops a pretty sobering realization on us. We didn't actually want to do the grueling work of building a genuinely new civilization. We just wanted our comfortable status quo back, maybe with a nice thin veneer of civility. And by the early 21st century, conflict came roaring back. The author boils it all down to one chilling truth. There is simply more money in war than there is in peace.
Which brings us to Section 2, the art of self-reflection, and starting the path to peace with yourself. The good news here is that the author insists all is not lost. We can still achieve global harmony, but it demands a massive fundamental shift. And that shift doesn't start with governments. It starts with us, as individuals, returning to that lost art of self-reflection.
To get us on that path, the essay points to a very specific solution, satyagraha. This is Gandhi's powerful concept of nonviolent resistance and truth force. The source frames this as a very real, tangible path to world peace, but here's the catch. To pull it off, we have to actually unplug. We need to actively train our minds to critically ponder the massive defining issues of our time.
To really drive this home, the author quotes Gandhi directly, saying, "Nonviolence is the greatest force at the disposal of mankind. It is mightier than the mightiest weapon of destruction devised by the ingenuity of man." It's a powerful reminder that true power doesn't come from bombs or physical destruction. True power comes from thoughtful, deliberate nonviolence that's rooted in actual critical thinking.
Okay, so how do we actually pull this off in our daily lives? The author gives us some super clear, actionable advice. First, make it a habit to look for something magical and beautiful every single day. Next, practice critical thinking. Don't just be a passive wage slave sleepwalking through a mindless routine. Wake up, dress up, and show up to actually make a dent in your own sphere of influence. And most importantly, remember that every single thought and ultimately all societal change starts entirely with you. The essay also shares some ancient wisdom on this from Philippians, which really hits the nail on the head. It's essentially a call to actively curate our thoughts. Look, in a world absolutely bursting with digital noise and distraction, we still have a choice in what we consume. We're being urged to consciously focus our minds on whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, excellent, and praiseworthy.
And that brings us to our final takeaway. The author leaves us with a couple of massive, provocative questions to chew on. Why am I here? What is my mission in this life? And what exactly happens when I die? So, we're leaving you with a challenge based on this explainer. The next time you go for a walk, just leave your phone in your pocket. Ditch the digital escapism for a few minutes. Ask yourself those big questions and see what kind of legacy you're truly building.